A young girl heavily applies foundation to her face as she begins her first night on the streets. Her body is stiff, her expression vacant. The other women kindly teach her how to raise her hand, not to lift her skirt too high, and to strike alluring poses. Like a puppet being manipulated, she mechanically extends one hand. A middle-aged man stops, becoming her first customer. Minutes later, he leaves a generous tip, which the girl takes only to burn in candlelight. She declares that the person she once was is also consumed in these flames. A 16-year-old innocent girl has died, and rising from the ashes is Gangubai, the queen of the Mumbai underworld. This is the story of the movie Gangubai Kathiawadi, based on the true story of Gangubai, a queen of the Mumbai underworld in the 1960s. A controversial yet influential figure in India, she pushed for the legalization of the red light district to protect the rights of women and their descendants. Her portraits have been posted in the streets of India for over 60 years, and even today, she is worshipped as a deity by the underprivileged women of India. But how did she rise from a courtesan to a mafia queen, and then to a social activist who was received by the Prime Minister of India? Gangubai, originally named Ganga, was born into a high caste with a lawyer father, leading a carefree life. If not for a mistake at the age of 16, she might have married a suitable husband like any other well-educated woman and lived an ordinary but happy life. Young and beautiful Ganga had dreams of stardom which her conservative parents did not support, leading to a rift. This gave an unscrupulous man the opportunity to take advantage of her naivety and dreams. He deceived her family, eloping with her to Mumbai's Bollywood, only to sell her into the red light district. On that night, her body, dreams, and trust were all sold for a mere 1,000 rupees, less than $10. Ganga initially protested by fasting, but after just 6 days, all hope was shattered. She could endure the physical pain, but her reputation was ruined, and returning home meant certain death. She accepted her fate, but refused to be enslaved. Ganga, now calling herself Gangubai, quickly became the top courtesan in the area with her exceptional attributes. Within a year, she had the power to confront the brothel madam. One day, just as work was about to start, Gangubai stood up and demanded a day off simply because she wanted to watch a movie that evening. Hearing this, her sisters followed her lead. The madam, faced with Gangubai's challenge to her authority, was speechless. That evening, the madam saw a chance for revenge. A customer arrived at 4 a.m., specifically asking for Gangubai. The experienced madam immediately recognized him as trouble, but accepted double the price and woke Gangubai. As soon as he entered the room, the customer laid down the money in a handgun, then began to beat and kick Gangubai. It turned out he was a sadistic abuser. While Gangubai screamed for help, the madam pretended to knock on the door to intervene but never entered. On that very night, Gangubai was beaten black and blue, requiring 15 stitches in her abdomen and 4 in her lips. The madam feigned consolation, stating that such risks were part and parcel of their line of work and that going to the police was out of the question. She hoped to break Gangubai's spirit with this ordeal, but Gangubai was far from defeated. Gangubai learned that her assailant was associated with the mafia, so she went straight to his boss, the local mafia leader named Rossi. Rossi, a man of principles, was impressed by Gangubai's courage upon seeing the horrific scars on her body. He immediately accepted her as his sworn sister and promised to help her seek revenge. Later, the man returned, and Gangubai, with composure, instructed the madam to charge him 4 times the usual rate before meeting him alone. Just as he was about to strike, Rossi was brought in just in time by her sisters. Rossi beat the man until he was unconscious in front of everyone, then left him for Gangubai to deal with.
पैसे दे मेरे हक के पैसे दे
This act of defiance stunned the madam, making her realize that Gangubai was no ordinary woman, no longer the moneymaker she could control. Soon after, the madam's health declined and she died, clutching the wealth she had amassed over a lifetime. In her final moments, Gangubai distributed all the money to her sisters, who then crowned her with a white sari, symbolically making her the new leader. At this moment, Gangubai officially became Gangubai Kathiawadi. A young girl is roughly made up, a cloth stuffed into her mouth, and a nose ring brutally pierced through her nostril, causing blood to immediately flow to her lips. In India, husbands mark their ownership of their wives with a dagger, but tonight the young girl belongs to all the men in the area, not just a single groom. We're taken to Kathiawadi, India's notorious red light district, rife with human trafficking and criminal gangs. Countless young girls are pushed into the abyss daily in this neighborhood synonymous with sin and degradation. Yet it is here that a beacon of hope was born. The future empress of Mumbai, Gangubai Kathiawadi, adorned with expensive jewelry, the only woman of her time to command an army. Whenever the red light district faced incooperative newcomers, the madams would turn to Gangubai for help. However, Gangubai never resorted to violence with the girls. Instead, she would calmly share her story, leaving them with a choice: either stay and earn money or take poison and end their lives. Many girls indeed chose the latter. Without saying much, Gangubai would then redeem the girls for 10 times the price and arrange for them to be sent home. Her subordinates couldn't understand why she would spend money to save these people. Gangubai would just smile and say they wouldn't understand. Her motive was to win hearts and pave the way for her future election. She sought not just money but also power. Gangubai's next goal was to run for councillor of the Kathiawadi area. Her competitor, Razia, had been in office for 2 years and wielded considerable influence. To stand a chance against Razia, Gangubai needed a significant amount of money. She approached her sworn brother Rasi to take over the mafia's alcohol business. This was against the rules and Rasi couldn't agree. However, Gangubai insisted that her intentions were not for personal gain, but for the welfare of millions of women in the area.
सवाल उसूल का नहीं, कमाटीपुरा की औरतों की जिंदगी का है और उनके लिए मेरा ये इलेक्शन जीतना बहुत जरूरी है। इलेक्शन जीती तो उनके लिए सोच सकूंगी, लड़ सकूंगी, शायद उनकी जिंदगी बदल सकूंगी। वरना रजिया ऐसी सबका जीना हराम करती रहेगी।
Hearing this, Rasi decided to make an exception just this once and personally delivered a luxury car to her as a token of good luck for her success.
Business card भी छपवा लेना। Gangubai, Mafia Queen।
Gangubai's rival Razia quickly got wind of this development. He sent someone to negotiate with Gangubai, but the envoy was instead taught a harsh lesson. Razia then tipped off the police to raid Gangubai's premises, exploiting India's prohibition laws, where being caught smuggling alcohol could lead to serious charges. However, Gangubai easily bribed the police chief with a small sum of money. Left with no other options, Razia decided to visit her in person. He was full of threats and intimidation in his conversation with Gangubai, but she was unfazed. That evening, when Razia was supposed to deliver his election speech at the square, not a single soul turned up on time. It was discovered that Gangubai had arranged for a film to be projected on a screen in a narrow alley, offering a free screening that attracted the entire populace. Realizing the truth, Razia was furious. At that moment, Gangubai confidently confronted him, marking the official start of their war. Gangubai had already succeeded halfway, but to complete her mission she needed one last trump card which appeared before her just as she finished speaking. A young girl was locked in a cage on the rooftop. For 10 years her mother had been feeding her opium before entertaining clients, letting her sleep through the night because this was the red light district bustling with men every evening. The girl, only 15, would be devoured immediately if seen by men. Growing up in such an environment, she had no choice unless she could marry into a good family soon. But who would marry a girl from the red light district? Upon hearing this, Gangubai immediately thought of the perfect candidate. This handsome young man was the son of a tailor and Gangubai's lover. He was honest, kind-hearted, and had never overstepped his bounds with Gangubai despite their long association. But how could a relationship between the queen of the red light district and a commoner's son have a future? So Gangubai played matchmaker. She prepared 350 grams of gold and 50,000 rupees as a dowry to propose marriage, an offer that was too good to refuse. The parents happily agreed, and the wedding was arranged to take place in Kathiawadi, the first wedding ever to be held in the red light district.
अपने यहाँ की बारात देख रही है? रजिया का जनाजा देख रही हूँ। आज वो खत्म हो गई।
Gangubai knew that after the public witnessed the wedding, they would clearly see the positive changes she could bring to Kathiawadi. As expected, she was elected and received applause from everyone. From then on, Gangubai clearly defined the boundaries for both the underworld and the lawful in the Red District. However, the one thing that remained unchanged was the discrimination against the Red Light District. The people there had no rights, they couldn't open bank accounts, and their children were denied education. Developers in alliance with schools publicly condemned the negative impact of the Red Light District, calling for its complete demolition to make way for skyscrapers, ostensibly for the students' benefit but actually to profit from the construction. Gangubai fought a legal battle against the developers and schools for 5 months, while the protests only intensified. She took the girls from the area to a school to apply for admission, but the principal outright refused them. Gangubai, however, responded with compelling arguments.
कोठे से हुए तो क्या हुआ? शिक्षा का हक है इन्हें, और ये हक में इनको दिलाकर रहूंगी फादर। जरा सोचिए तो, अगर इनमें से कोई डॉक्टर, इंजीनियर या बैरिस्टर भी बन जाए, तो इनकी जिंदगी बदल जाएगी और आपकी शिकायत भी मिट जाएगी, है क्या नहीं?
जी बिल्कुल।
After hearing Gangubai's retort, the principal was left speechless, and their debate caught the attention of a nearby journalist. The next day, the journalist sought out Gangubai for a personal interview. Initially, Gangubai was uninterested, but just then the girls returned home early from school, claiming they were beaten by a teacher and then sent home. Gangubai was infuriated. She asked the journalist to document this moment and then expose the unfair treatment they were subjected to the world. A few days later, the photograph made it to the cover of a magazine, sparking a nationwide outcry. Gangubai was invited to speak at a rally. She had prepared a speech but tore it up the moment she got on stage, choosing to speak from the heart instead. She laid bare the injustices suffered by the children and denounced the prejudice against the red light district, her words resonating powerfully with the audience.
एक सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ मैं आप लोगों से, ईमानदारी से जवाब देना। क्या हमारे बच्चों को भी शिक्षा का हक है कि नहीं? हाँ? हमारे बच्चे भी आपके बच्चे की तरह हिंदुस्तान का कल है कि नहीं? तो बस ठान लिया गंगू ने, कमाठीपुरा की औरतों को बेघर होने नहीं दूंगी। हमारे बच्चों को इनको शिक्षा का हक दिलाकर ही रहूंगी और समाज में इंसान की तरह जीने का हक मैं लेकर ही रहूंगी।
From then on, her influence grew, and even politicians sought her help during elections. She leveraged these connections to meet with the Prime Minister in the capital, advocating for the rights of the red light district's women and seeking justice for them.
अभी इस वक्त जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, कहीं कोई लड़की बिक रही होगी या तो कोई खरीद रहा होगा। सजा तो उस बेचने और खरीदने वाले को मिलनी चाहिए, लेकिन मिलती किसको है? उस बेगुनाह लड़की को।
Although her proposals were challenging to implement, the Prime Minister took them seriously. As a result, the 4,000 women of Kathiawadi were spared displacement. When Gangubai returned home, the entire community, including her family and former foes, came out to welcome her. Gangubai's life mission was to ensure that no woman in Kathiawadi lost her family, though she was no saint. Her proposal to legalize the red light district remains controversial today. But in an era marked by discrimination, those women had few choices. Gangubai brought dignity to a place devoid of it, teaching women how to breathe freely within their cages. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this.